Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny, along with Kenny Squared. We're back with Sports on the Positive Tip. We have conversations at the intersection of sports and faith. Kenny, Nolan McClean, after shutting out the Phillies last night and the Mets sweeping them, after three starts, he has a 0.89 ERA. And I tell you what's impressive about him, he doesn't throw 99 or 100. He throws probably around 95, 96, but he's got a curveball and he's got a really good slider and he's really got a good cutter. So, and he's the first Met, by the way, ever. And this is hard to imagine with all the great pitchers that has won their first three starts. That is just really hard to believe.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, ever. Any thoughts? Have you gotten to see any highlights?
I've seen a little bit. The future's bright with that rotation.
Yeah,
It's been weird all year.
yeah,
I'm glad they're like, you know what? Forget it. Let's get out with the young guys, see what happens.
yeah. He's been a spark. Jonah Tong starts Friday, so they're bringing him up as well, who's supposedly even better than McClain. I have to ask you two questions. My first one is this: do ex-Yankees come back and kill the Yankees like ex-Mets do? I got to tell you, man, this series, Kyle Schwarber went 0 for the series, which was good. Harrison Bader tore it up. I think he had 7 or 8 hits, and he had the big ninth inning two-run homer that tied the game on the game I went to, and I'll have a Citi Field review in a bit. But do ex-Yankees do the same thing? Because also Dominic Smith had a game-winning hit earlier. Will McFleur, you name any Met that comes back and they kill the Mets. How about with the Yankees?
In recent memory, there's no one that sticks out because like a lot of like the ex-Yankees are like, I don't know, they're not at that level. Like I think of like Gary Sanchez, he hasn't really done a ton.
Yeah,
Kyle
yeah,
Higashioka.
yeah.
I mean, Juan Soto even didn't really do much. He's
Right, right.
barely an ex-Yankee, but
Why is it with the Mets? I don't get it. Here's my second question for you. Why does an umpire, why would an umpire throw a player out that's already been taken out of the game? Um, so I give you Lazardo from the Phils last night. He's barking at a couple of times, and as he gets taken out, he's barking at the umpire. The umpire throws him out, but he's already out of the game. Why is the umpire still throwing him out?
probably just because he can. Also, like he's forced now to go to the clubhouse as opposed to stay on the dugout, so he can't bark at the umpire from there.
Okay, I guess. And there's got to be a fine associated when you get kicked out of a game, I would guess, right?
I think so. I'll
Yeah.
check if I can find anything.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought that was weird. I'm like, he's out of the game anyway. All right, as we get started, let me take you back to this day in 1977. And this is a bad Yankee memory, actually, although that was a great year for them. On this day in 1977, in a game against the Texas Rangers, Toby Harrah and Bump Wills was Maury Wills' son, they hit back-to-back inside the park home runs. I don't think that'll ever be done again. It was just the most freakish thing. Lou Piniella got hurt running into the wall in right field. So Hara, who wasn't that fast, came all the way around. And then Mickey Rivers misplayed a deep drive to center field. It ticked off his glove and rolled away from him. And Bump Wills, who was very fast, came all the way around. Have you ever seen that highlight? If not, I need to send it to you.
Yeah, I think you need to send that one to me.
Okay. All right. We ready to get this going?
Let's get into it.
This episode of Sports on the Positive Tip is brought to you by the Tavern Coffee House. Attention, coffee lovers! Are you craving the perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Well, look no further than the Tavern Coffee House. It's located at 12302 Buckeye Road in Cleveland, Ohio. You can also check them out and order your coffee at thetaverncoffee.com. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny and
Kenny squared.
with the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. Kenny, lots to get into today, and it's so funny how a difference a week makes in baseball, man. It is really amazing. We were both crying last week. Then the Yankees go out and they take care of business. They take care of business again against the Nationals. they took care of business against the Nationals, but not so much against the Red Sox, although at least they salvaged the series with that last game. Anthony Volpe, though, has now become a huge story for your team. I'm thinking also Max Fried should start getting some Cy Young consideration here. Give us your recap on this past week. Go back to that series with Boston and give us a recap on this past week with the Yankees as they seem to have a little bit of momentum here. But man, this team has been just so up and down, you just don't know.
Yeah, it's it really is like a case of Jekyll and Hyde with this team. Um, it's ridiculous how crazy like the highs and the lows. I saw a meme that was like the one with like the really bright castle and then like the nightmare house. And it's two paths and it's like the Yankees, best team, World Series contenders, or how is this team even a baseball team?
Yeah, it's
And
hard
that's
to
like how it
gauge.
is.
Yeah, it really is hard to gauge.
Um so combine their last 18 games against the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. They are 1-17,
That's
which
crazy.
is
Yeah,
insane.
yeah,
Um because like even if they were 6-12, which still isn't good, they would be in first place.
yeah.
Um, but it's very easy to kind of go here. Here's what I'll say. They start a 4-game series against Chicago, the White Sox, I should say, in Chicago tonight. Really, like, we'll give them a game. 3 out of 4 should be pretty easy. Especially like, okay, so the Yankees won 10-5, so I think 2-1, and then 11-2 against the Nationals. Like they took care of business. The Yankees can beat up on the bad teams, but it still means nothing until you show me something
Yeah.
against teams that are contenders. I think
Yeah.
I saw that they have like a 329 winning percentage against teams that are AL teams that are currently in the playoffs. And that's what kind of scares me. Like, here's what I can see happening. The Yankees get the first wild card, possibly even win the division, and then just get completely demolished in the playoffs.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of that shouldn't be the case with this team because they have a lot of good pieces. And I'll talk about a few of those. Max Fried, you mentioned, one earned run in his last 13 innings, two
Yeah.
starts. One was against the Nationals, okay, fine, but one was also against the Red Sox, who have been a pretty good team. Um, I think he might be finally turning the corner. Cam Schlittler has looked excellent. Brought a perfect game last week into the 7th inning. Um, Rodon has been pretty solid, and I'm liking where he's going, but it's just really, really challenging to get excited about a sweep of the Nationals, especially coming off of losing 3 out of 4 to the Red Sox. And it's one thing to like lose to them because you played good baseball. They didn't. The
Hmm.
first game, they had 4 errors, and any of those errors don't happen, they probably win the game, or at least it's a little bit more competitive than it was towards the end.
Hmm.
Um, And yeah, Anthony Volpe has gone from a kind of a Yankee whipping boy to an actual problem now. Um, in his last 11 games, he is 1 for 37, with like 14 strikeouts or so. So he's not striking out every at bat, but still,
Right.
just to kind of give a perspective. So the Yankees yesterday, they scored 9 runs in the 3rd inning. The Nationals threw 71 pitches. Um, it's the most pitches a team has thrown against the Yankees since like 2003 or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
And Anthony Volpe made 2 outs in that inning, and in an inning where you score 9 runs,
Wow.
Yankee fans were booing him.
Yeah.
I think what Boone needs to start doing is you got to start Caballero at shortstop, and then Volpe can come in late for defense.
Hmm.
I think that especially like we still don't really have a good word on Judge, so I think the move that has to be made is Caballero needs to be a shortstop. Stanton, when he's playing, is in right field. So then Volpe comes in like the 6th, 7th inning, maybe even as a pinch runner because Stanton continues to just destroy the baseball. Um, have him go to Caballero to right field and Volpe in the game.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think having him getting 4 or 5 at bats every day is not helping. He needs like a mental break, and I think he needs a mental break for at least like a few weeks or so.
A few.
Um,
Wow. Okay.
Also, I think one of the biggest overlooking things has been how amazing Trent Grisham has been.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he has 26 home runs, which is a career high for him. In like over a little over 500 plate appearances as a Yankee, he's had 35 home runs. Juan Soto last year alone had 41. Um, Juan Soto helped the Yankees get to the World Series, but the Yankees won the Trent Grisham trade. So I'm excited about that,
Yeah.
especially since Michael King hasn't really done a ton for San Diego yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm not sure what happened to him this year. Last year he was good, but not so much this year.
yeah, he got hurt this year,
Got
so
hurt, right? That's what I thought. Okay.
yeah. But I think once again, what I look at as far as the Yankees schedule is after this week, they play Houston, they play Boston again, they play Detroit, and then they play Toronto.
Oh boy.
Um, they get through that gauntlet, and even if we're talking 500 ball and clean 500 ball,
Yeah.
I'll start to believe that this team has a chance.
Yeah.
If they go and over the next 2 weeks they go something like 2-9, I don't know
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's that's going to be tough those four series coming up, but I think they could go 500. I really do. I think that sometimes you have this series like this against the Nationals, who aren't a good team, yet they took 2 out of 3 from the Mets last week. But I think it also boosts your confidence. It gives you a chance to get some things right. I want to go back to Volpe for a second. I, I um I don't know. I caught a couple of his at bats, and he looks so out of sorts, Kenny. And it's interesting that you said a couple of weeks. I was thinking, okay, let him take a series off or something like that. Um, but Boone has really stuck with him through a lot, and I think Boone, there's some sort of connection there, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We see that across baseball where you'll have a young player and the manager really stands by them. But how do you uh, what's the word I'm looking for? How do you bring him along? How do you bridge that gap between still worrying about his development and yet though you're right in the thick of a pennant race? How do you
I think
get in the middle there?
I think it's hard because we see it sometimes with like young stars where when the lights are shining bright, they're fine with it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's starting to get to Volpe a little bit. Boone is, I don't know. Sometimes it also kind of feels um like Volpe has like blackmail on Aaron Boone, which is why he gets so much playing time. But like he will defend him no matter what. He says
Right.
that he always has the same mentality. And I don't disagree. I think that as far as having like the thick skin for the New York media, Volpe has been good in that. As far as like working hard and improving his game, I think he does a good job. And also, sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes you need like in order to get development because at this point, like you're not going to send him down to AAA because the AAA season's basically over.
Right.
Um, but I think having him be like the cheerleader on the bench, come in for speed and defense, that way he can focus on one part of his game because there's like after his yips a little bit in the early part of the summer, they've kind of come back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he threw a ball into the stands against the Red Sox, I think twice.
Yeah.
He made a couple bad decisions as far as whether to throw to first or throw to second. Um, I think he just needs like that full mental break. But Boone, I don't know why Boone likes him so much.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think maybe he just sees like the hard work and the dedication, which
Yeah.
like, hey, I understand. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like at some point you're hurting him more than you're helping him by keep throwing him out there to go 0 for
Okay.
5
Yeah.
and to hear the boos at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard. It's quite a gap that he has to bridge there. But I see why like Volpe is a very likable young man. He had a great story, New York guy and playing here for the Yankees but at this point in the season now, we're a few days away from September 1st. You got to produce. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I've seen that with Mendoza. We'll switch over here to the Mets for a second. How someone like Cedric Mullins, who's a excellent veteran player, going to be a free agent, has started to hit. His first maybe 2 weeks here with the Mets wasn't that great. He's fine in the field, started to hit, but Tyrone Taylor went in because both McNeil and Nemo had some minor injuries, and he started hitting. And I know we haven't seen Cedric Mullins in a couple of games now, probably a good 3, 4 games. So we see Mendoza not worried so much about feelings. Now Mullins a lot different than Volpe. Chances are Mullins won't be here next year, and you're not. He's a veteran player, and so you're not really trying to bring him along as you are a young player like Volpe. But I just think the mentality has to be, if you're not producing at this point in the season, man, we got to sit you down. I'm sorry, and you know,
Yeah, and also like if this was the Milwaukee Brewers who are up 10 games in the division, that's something
right? That's
different.
different, right?
Like you're in the thick of the pennant race.
Yeah,
Right now you'd be heading to Houston for a wild card series,
yeah,
which is I'm sure the last thing that this Yankee team wants to do.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they got
so yeah,
Alvarez back too, So
yeah.
like, and he missed 100 games. I didn't realize he was out that long. So you got a guy like that. That's great pickup. Sort of like you could look at it as a pickup because he's well rested, And we've seen that with Starling Marte with the Mets, and he's playing fantastic. But he's finally healthy, well rested because he's had these injuries over the last 2 years, really. And Alvarez might be really dangerous there for the Astros. Kenny, I have to tell you this, and I'll get to the Mets, but I went to the game the other night. We had phenomenal seats. I was treated by a parishioner. Thank you, Andy. Shout out. And it was very, very. I hadn't been to Citi Field probably since 2018 or 2019. I was trying to think about when. I know I haven't been since post-COVID, and probably the last time was maybe we sat in a suite with Sprint, right? Is what I'm thinking. Put it this way, I couldn't remember the last time I was there. And it is because it is a long haul to get there. Parking was $40 now, so parking is expensive. Concessions of course at every stadium is pricey. But I have to tell you the experience was phenomenal. The people were really, really nice and they get you in and out of there fast, man. They have a lot of people. Remember you and I was a nightmare. We used to sit outside of Yankee Stadium and even times at Shea Stadium back when you were young and we'd sit there for an hour, hour and a half before we even moved out of the parking lot. Remember at Yankee Stadium, and we would come down and be like, man, there's nobody directing any traffic or anything. The Mets, I mean, every few feet, you've got people just directing traffic. So it adds to the experience. There's a lot of fun things that happen in between games. It's almost like going to a minor league, game like the Ducks, how there's races and everything like that everything happening during the game. This is my first look also at their scoreboard, which they've had now for 2 years. Their new scoreboard, it's by far the biggest in the major leagues. It is amazing, how big the scoreboard is. But the atmosphere was great. The Mets fans, I will give our Met fans credit this year because they've been slow to boo. They really booed Ryan Helsley the other night. I'll get to him in a second. But they've been slow to boo Juan Soto and really patient with him. I think we got this guy for 15 years, man. We're gonna run him out of town. He's not going anywhere. We can boo him all we want. So I mean, when I tell you that he probably still gets the biggest ovation when he comes up, he does. Although Lindor is close, and we love Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso really getting a lot of love from the Mets fans. But here's the thing, the Mets are selling out now pretty much every night. It was a packed house on a Tuesday night. Now it was a special night. They were celebrating the 20-year anniversary of SNY and having Gary, Keith, and Ron in the booth. So we got a little pen to go. I didn't bring it with me this morning. I'd show it to you. You wouldn't be able to see it on the screen so much. And I got a Gary Cohen pen, which is pretty cool. So but I have to say, Citi Field has really upped their game. They were great. and I say they because the gentleman I went with had a riding cart that he needs to get around, and they were just so good in getting him into an elevator and making sure the cart was safe for the rest of the game, got him to his seat. It was just an overall great experience and a great atmosphere. The fans are so into it. Of course, you see people on their phones, but they were mostly just really, really, um, tuned in to the game and really almost every pitch. A really quick, interesting thing, and I'll be brief on where the Mets are at right now. JJ Yastrzemski, John Yastrzemski, that used to be on FAN, he's now on SNY. He sat next to us, and I didn't
Oh
recognize him at
wow.
first until he started talking. And the guy who I was with was making a conversation with him, and super super nice guy, and was talking a little bit of sports. Very nice perspective. He said he did his SNY thing already. He wasn't going back. Sometimes he's on the post game stuff as well as the pre-game stuff. This time he's on the pre-game stuff, and he said he didn't have anything to do post game. So because he was in shorts, t-shirt, and everything like that. All right, the Mets. I don't know how this has happened, but they really have the Phillies number. They've won 10 straight against the Phillies now at Citi Field, but that includes the postseason. Um, the Phillies they looked like a little bit deer in the headlights after the Mets walked that game off. Now the Mets walked that game off against one of the best closers in baseball, Duran, and I was sitting next to on my right side a Phillies fan, young kid, and I didn't go into asking him about, how he became a Phillies fan. I didn't know where he was from, but he was there with his dad and a few other people, and we had a very nice, quick conversation. And I asked him, "What's the Phillies' Achilles heel? What worries you about the Phillies?" And he said, and this is probably in the fifth inning when they started to use their bullpen. He said, "The bullpen." He said, "Because our closer's great." He said, "Everybody else is just a crapshoot." I said, "Even Alvarado, you have him back?" He said, "Yeah, he's been hit or miss." And we can't depend on him in the postseason because he can't, because he got suspended, he can't play in the postseason. Now he was lights out. I think he pitched the eighth inning, and the Mets usually have his number, but they didn't. They didn't the other night. So I like where the Mets are at. They're turning it back around, I think. But particularly Mark Vientos has been blistering hot. He hit another home run last night. He's figured it out. I said this last week. All of the guys that went into slumps together have come out of those slumps together. So Alonso had a couple of big hits. Lindor continues to be on fire. Soto is Soto. He's getting his hits here and there. Brandon Nimmo had the game winner. He's gotten hot. And now you have this infusion of Nolan McClean in the pitching. And now Kodai Senga wasn't good the other night. Sean Manaea that started the game we went to. He was again good for just about 5 innings, and then he sort of loses it, and that's a little bit puzzling. So I mean, he was lights out the first 4 innings, but he's been that almost every start. So that's a little puzzling. Peterson continues to be great. My only concern now is the bullpen. Kenny, there's got to be something to this, right? When you get a high leverage guy like Ryan Helsley, and he's got the big introduction too, and the Mets did that for him. He came in the eighth inning, and I guess the same introduction he had in St. Louis. They're playing, excuse the language, Hell's Bells by AC/DC, but the stadium gets dark and all the lights, and here's his big entrance. And boy, oh boy, he was bad again. He gives up the two-run homer um, to Bader. He was good the other night. Maybe it was against Atlanta Saturday night. He came in. It wasn't high leverage. It was good. Let me stop there and ask you this question. Is there something to you get a closer who has that adrenaline and now you put him in the eighth inning? He goes to another team, first of all, and now you put him in the seventh or eighth inning. Is there something lost there? Because I'm like, this is not the same guy. Listen, he's closed out the Mets with the Cardinals the last couple of years. There was a reason why he's been an all-star the last few years with the Cardinals, but he doesn't look like the same, man. Is there something lost there when you take that closer and now put them in the eighth inning?
Yeah, I think so. Because before he arrived in New York, he had given up one run since June 19th.
Yeah.
Um, but also like I saw the same thing like Bednar. He's been better now, but his first couple starts were rough. Um, also the what's it called? Duvall has been garbage.
Yeah, well, he's another one. I mean, he was lights out all year with the Giants and last year. And so he hasn't been good either, right?
Nah, I'll pull up his numbers, but I feel like because he also has, because unlike Helsley and who's like strictly the eighth inning guy, Duvall has been all over the place. Heck, even Devin Williams, who, although it seems like maybe the opposites happened where he's been better in not the ninth inning,
Yeah.
but it's just, I think there is something to it, especially if you're talking about being on a team that is not in the pennant race, a team that like you can just kind of go out there and twirl it, but then you have the added pressure of, oh, I'm part of a really good bullpen and I can't be the one to mess it up. I
Yeah.
think that there is something to that.
Yeah. And the Cardinals these last 2 years really haven't been in the race. It looked like they were for a while this year, but he hasn't been in big games this late in the season, through a good part of his career now, you know. Hell's so anyway, I think the Mets will be okay. The Reds got swept by the Dodgers. They lost again last night. So the Mets are now find themselves four games up on the Reds for the wild card. They do have three with the Reds next month in Cincinnati. So I'm sure Cincinnati will be looking towards that. Cubs is 6.5 back of the Brewers. Uh, any shot of them catching the Brewers at this point?
Do you know if they play again?
I think they have
So I don't
one
think
more
they play.
series. Oh, maybe they don't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'd have to look that up.
Um, I would lean no
Yeah,
because I mean the Brewers they'll probably go into a slight slump, but
yeah. They've been hot for
um
so long. Yeah,
they've been hot for so long, so it's really hard to kind of say.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. It would be really hard to. I think it would be really hard for them to come all the way back.
yeah, yeah. In the West, NL West, Padres are a head scratching team. They're now 2 games back. The Dodgers seem to right themselves a little bit. Yeah, I don't. The Padres probably have as much talent as the Dodgers. You know, it doesn't get talked about as much because they make these low key moves, but I don't know what's missing with them, why they can't get over the hump. I certainly think they'll be in the postseason, because they'll be in the wild card. I just now, even the Dodgers have a lot of guys that are coming back in September, like Tommy Edman and all these guys that's been injured for them. Probably they can't depend on some of these pitchers coming back that's been hurt. But any shot of you think the Padres will take that division?
I think it'll end up being the Dodgers.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because also like the Dodgers, they're gonna start getting a little healthy too. I don't know if you saw Shohei Ohtani got his first win as a Dodger,
Oh, did he
which
go? He went long enough. Okay.
yeah, which like also kind of it's gonna be annoying if because he was a pitcher that he wins MVP because he
Yeah,
hasn't been that good.
yeah,
But whatever.
yeah. Well,
Um,
who's the MVP then in the NL?
I mean, it's probably Ohtani.
Yeah,
I can't really like if you asked me in June, I would have probably said Pete Crow Armstrong, but
yeah, yeah,
Ohtani's had a great year
yeah,
offensively.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Schwarber still is batting 243, but he's clutch. He's got 45 homers and 110 RBIs. I mean, so he might end up with over 50 and 130. I mean, but the guy Olson, Matt Olson, right? The year Acuna won the MVP, he had 54 homers and like 120 something RBIs. So, uh, I don't know. I listen. I like Otani, but I'd love to see someone else step up. Maybe it's somebody who carries their team in September. They really wanted to give it to Lindor last year, and again, the National League writers traditionally look for a player like that. It just hasn't been one like that, that just steps up and carries their team. I can't even think of a dark horse candidate at the moment, aside from Schwarber in the National League. That Pete Alonso, maybe if he gets blistering hot. Um, I
Yeah, Schwarber's a good option.
I mean, he is. It's just hard to give a low average like that, 243. But if he gets up to at least 250, maybe 260 to end the year, I mean, and he carries the Phillies. I think they said in out of his 45 home runs, 36 games, and 36 times he's homered, the Phillies have won. You can tell he definitely, the Phillies were missing something when he kind of went 0 for the series, you know. Um, I,
I have a
yeah,
couple things. So interesting with the MVP, the lowest batting average for an MVP in history is 269. Roger Maris, when he hit 61 home runs, hit 269.
yeah,
Because another one that has a low batting average, but if he ends up with 63 home runs, he probably wins it is Cal Raleigh. He
yeah.
might win it anyway.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, Judge, it's between those two, right? In the American League, we can't really think of anybody else that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's between those two guys. Um, yeah, we probably need to get into more of a discussion on that and going into September, because I think that's going to be very, very, very interesting. Because Raleigh as a catcher, he has 50 home runs now, right?
Yeah.
As a catcher, everyday catcher. I mean, they're going to start to take that into consideration, in a big way. I think the Mariners will be in the postseason. Now, if he carries them past the Astros, it's only a game and a half lead that the Astros have right now, so Mariners could win that division as well. But that is going to be a fascinating race.
Um, Another fascinating race actually might be that NL Central. I have up the Brewers and Cubs schedules.
Yeah,
So this is just September. I don't have what they're doing this weekend. Um, we'll start with the Brewers. Phillies, Pirates, Rangers, Cardinals, Angels, Cardinals, Padres, Reds. So their last six games are against playoff contenders.
right.
And then they also play the Phillies. Everyone else is kind of eh.
Yeah.
Chicago, Braves, Nationals, Braves, Rays, Pirates, Reds, Mets, Cardinals.
Wow.
So they play two. So I kind of take that back. That might be a tighter race than we think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the Cubs are still like 20 games over 500. I mean, they've had a great year. And, but it's just that the Brewers just eclipsed them so fast. All right, let's jump into a couple of topics while we have about a half hour or so. The realignment thing, you sent me a couple of ones, and I saw the clip of John Schmaltz. His concept wasn't really new. They did that in the strike season 1981, I think was the strike season. They did that. They did the first half set, but he was thinking of long-term stuff. So let me turn it over to you. Talk to me about now. We continue our discussion from last week about realignment, and you saw one other idea aside from that. So talk about those couple ideas and what are you now liking the best?
All right, so a little bit on John Smoltz. So the way he said it is, I don't know, I think he said two, like an East and a West for the American League National League,
Right,
and then a first half winner, a second half winner, and then a wild card.
right,
So whoever has the next best record after that, which kind of solves the problem that happened in 1981 when the Reds had the best overall record in baseball, but didn't make the playoffs
right,
because
right,
they didn't win either half.
right,
So
right. Yeah,
so that way, like you have in each division, you have a first half winner, a second half winner, and then your wild card. So then you have six teams that make the playoffs. Bada bing, bada boom. You kind of have the same format.
hmm,
Um, what he brought up was to me very interesting, and um, I'll get into the other one in a sec. Is that it then creates it? It helps in two different ways. Number one, you're creating a lot of urgency in June. Like we're talking about like September pennant race stuff in mid-June, which would be a lot of fun. So then
yeah,
um like a team like the Yankees who've had a bad second half, they'd feel a little bit more secure about their playoff positioning and everything like that, and that could work. The other thing that it does is it helps teams that got off to a slow start kind of get a fresh start. He used, of course, his favorite team, the non-biased broadcaster, the Braves. Um, And he said, like, the Braves with all their injuries, like, by the time July, August came and everyone was healthy, they were already out of the race. So it didn't
right,
matter.
right.
But if you had a second half, then that could kind of really change things a lot.
Yeah,
So I thought that was interesting. And then I saw the video that I sent you. It's from John Boy Media, who now are technically kind of partners with baseball. He said he was going to email it to all of the baseball people, but um, his was kind of similar in the sense that you'd have four divisions of eight each. So you'd have an AL East, AL West, NL East, NL West. Um, and also like he showed all of the teams on a map and then like basically created a line straight down the middle. Like basically it's like if you're east or west of the Mississippi, essentially.
Right.
Um, and his format was a lot more about like scheduling and playoffs that I thought was very interesting. Um, First he had said, and I guess there's also I didn't double check this, but that with two added teams, they would consider maybe reducing the season.
If that happening.
Which
Yeah.
I would be surprised. He said
Yeah.
out of 156 games instead of 162,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but the way that he formatted the schedule, I thought was very interesting. And I think this could work. If you are in the American League, or every team, every series is 3 game series. So none of these 2 game series, none of these 4 game series, everything is three. If you're in the American League, you play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's your 3 game series. If you're in the National League, it's Thursday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So
Hmm.
your off day would be Monday. So
Right.
I think having that consistent schedule would be very helpful. That way, every week, every team gets an off week. Your bullpen gets reset. Your starters get reset. I think that could really work. And then also he had said that the way you can schedule it could work pretty easily, especially with 16 teams in each league. Like you can do this week is just you're playing divisional opponents. And then next week you're playing teams that are in the opposite division from you in your league. And then doing some interleague stuff. He also had kind of revamped the schedule to not play everybody,
Hmm.
that you do kind of the old interleague format where you only play one division every year and then it alternates. So
Okay.
let's say like let's say this goes in 2028, you play the AL East plays the NL East.
Right.
Then the next year they'd play the NL West. So
Right.
um I thought that was interesting just because like scheduling that would be very helpful. And he had also mentioned like as a content creator, one of the biggest things they always say is posting consistently. So like, I mean, you look at anyone that has a successful podcast or a successful presence on social media, they're usually posting 8 a.m. every morning or
Yeah.
whatever they might be doing.
Right.
Um, and like fans having that consistency and knowing my team is playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or my team is playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like that could be really helpful.
Yeah.
Um, what was very interesting, and I'm curious to see what you think about it, is the playoffs and also like the playoff format, I guess is probably the best way to put it. So he also had suggested doing a first half division winner and a second half division winner. Um, that way anybody that makes it like you automatically get in no matter what. But then also, then in each division, the next top three overall records make it. So basically, you'd have 8 teams from each league making the playoffs. So you have a 16 team bracket,
Yeah.
which is a lot more than what we have now. So you'd be adding essentially 4 playoff teams.
Yeah.
Um, and the way that they would be seeded would be their overall record. So just because you won the division in the first half, if your record is garbage, you could still end up as like the 7 or 8 seed.
Yeah.
So that kind of puts an emphasis on doing well throughout the entire year, but then also it helps emphasize winning the division. Because also he had kind of a very crazy, but I think it could be very exciting playoff format. So 8 teams making the playoffs. He added a round from what we have now. And basically the bottom 4 teams, so it'd be 5 versus 8, 7 versus 6, would do a 1 game playoff. So like the old 1 game playoff wild card format.
Right.
1 game and then you're in. And then those teams advance and then they would play the next 2 seeds, which would be 3, 4. And then they would play a 2 game wild card series, which basically, if you're the home team, you have to win one game. If you're the road team, you have to win both. So that way it doesn't like extend the season too long, but
Right.
then it still adds a lot of excitement and urgency because you have a lot of just like one game playoffs there. And then um from there you do the division series. He suggested moving the division series to 7 games,
Yeah.
and then championship series and World Series is the same. Um
Division series to 7 games?
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So then there's a little bit of like a now you're in the long battle. I don't know because I think this would be interesting because you have a little bit more of like as the playoffs start, there's a lot of urgency, which like I think that's what added some excitement about the one game playoff. Where
Uh-huh.
first of all, you wanted to avoid it, so you got your act together in early September,
Right.
but then also like the decisions made. Like I think of the Baltimore Toronto one where Ubaldo Jimenez, no, when Zach Britton had that amazing season, he gave up like 3 runs all year, but
Right.
then didn't get in the game and they put in Ubaldo Jimenez and he gave up the home run to Encarnacion.
I remember that.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
like those things will stick out more as
Yeah.
opposed to like okay, yeah, we're starting a wild card series that doesn't really mean that much on like a Tuesday afternoon.
Right.
So I think that could be interesting. I am for that. Um, I would be definitely open to expanding the playoffs in that way, where it adds a little bit of urgency and it adds a little bit of the we really want to avoid being one of the last place teams.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I would do the first or second half, but I'm open to it.
Yeah. I'm with you on the second one. The first half and second half, I don't know. I'll think about this year, right? Uh, what kind of first half, or at least a good part of the first half, did the Minnesota Twins have? You know, so can you imagine them being in the playoffs today? I mean, they probably wouldn't have emptied their roster out either at the trading deadline. I think first half, second half would also. That's one of the things that I'm not sure if any of them discussed that. That definitely would change the tone of the trading deadline, right? Because if you feel like at that point you got a shot, and you have more of a shot because all you got to do is have the best record in the second half um, to get in, that definitely changes that. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because sometimes the trading deadline is just it's crazy. I mean, when it it's through history, it's you think of CC Sabathia, um, for me, Will Clark. You probably know that name, but wouldn't remember. Usually, there's not this big Randy Johnson, of course, at the deadline with the Astros that year. There's usually not, though, a huge impact on the players that you get at the deadline. Sometimes it is. The Braves the other year, where they got all the outfielders and they had a big impact. So I think there's a lot of things that change there. The only thing that I'm opposed to, Ken, and I don't know how you would avoid it. I do like the urgency. I do. While there was something that stuck in my craw about the one game wild card, there was also something about teams playing so hard to avoid that. Thus the Mets in 2016, a home run in the ninth inning, and that's it. They're out. After a really good run, but the only thing I'm opposed to is adding the more teams. But I think you'd have to add the more teams in order to make that fun kind of, because that sounds to me almost like an NCAA, first four type tournament, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that first round, but it also could be enormously exciting, you know. And so I have mixed feelings. I don't want to be the old fogey traditionalist, because I do like when baseball changes. I did like with interleague. I would love to go back to the format of not having interleague every day, of making it special like it was for a long time, and not seeing some teams for 3 years. Mets don't need to see the Angels for every year. You know what I mean? Um, so I do like a lot of that. I wasn't crazy about Schmaltz's idea. I mean, I like John Schmaltz. Just talks too much, but you don't. I know.
Anytime Ben Rice hit a home run 420 feet. Oh, well, that's a short porch home run at Yankee
No,
Stadium. No, it's not, man.
stop it. Yeah, yeah. All right, we gotta continue to noodle this one around. I love this. Um, all right, you asked a great question, and I haven't thought about my other teams, so I promise I'll do that next week. Your question is, if you could change one play in your team's history, what would it be? And so I'll be quick because I have just the Mets. And the Mets has been a lot of disappointment over the years, right? And so I had a tough time thinking about this. But I think I'm going with 1999. And no knock on Kenny Rogers. He had an excellent major league career. But oh, you've heard me say this a million times. That championship series was so intense. I mean, the Braves just wiped the floor with the Mets the first three games, and then all of a sudden it just changed. And you have the Grand Slam single with Robin Ventura. Series goes back to Atlanta. It's 3 games to 2. It's a random night during the week. I don't remember if it was a Tuesday or Wednesday. It probably was a Tuesday night. And the game really is long, but it's NBC. That's when they were doing the baseball network thing. And so you have Bob Costas and Joe Morgan during the game. And the Braves get out to a lead and the Mets make this tremendous, comeback. John Smoltz, speaking of him, was in the bullpen then because he had the arm injury. And he was a great closer, actually. But they bring him in early this time because he wasn't quite the closer yet. And he gives up the big 3-run homer to Mike Piazza. And the Mets go up 6-5. I think they were losing 5-1 early. And then they go up like 9-5. And the panning of the Braves bench, Kenny, I just felt it in my core. If the Mets win this, then the Red Sox aren't the first team to come back from that. And sorry to bring up that memory. In 2004, the Mets would have definitely won Game 7 in my heart, right in my core. And so the Braves to see them rally like that in the eighth inning and then in the ninth inning, Kenny Rogers throw a strike. I mean, just let Andrew Jones hit it. Maybe it's a line drive out, whatever. But you throw a ball and it wasn't even close. And that, I mean, I remember just turning the TV off. I couldn't sleep. I remember I was like, I can't believe they lost that game, because it was such a great comeback. So I'm going to say that moment, National League Championship Series, Game 6, Kenny Rogers walking the bases loaded, and then walking Andrew Jones with the bases loaded. That's got to be my most disappointing moment. See, because like 73, when they lost in the World Series, it wasn't supposed to be in the World Series that year. The fact that they got there, I was ecstatic, right? When they lost to the Royals, what heck, it was a 5-game World Series. Of course, Lucas Duda throwing the ball away, and then Matt Harvey, begging to go back in. I mean, of course, hey, Terry Collins, take him out. And that wasn't a second guess. I remember saying, Terry Collins, take him out. Come on, man. And even, 2000 against the Yankees, the Timo Perez not running, the Todd Z. I mean, Game 1, I think that World Series was won. So there's some of those moments, but that was the one that just tore me up, man. I was like, and you hated the Braves back then, they were so good every year, and they had the Mets number every year, and it was like we could do this maybe, but anyway, that's my moment. I'll give you Knicks and Jets next week because I didn't really think about them. What you
Um, well, I thought with the Mets you might have said 2006, Carlos Beltran, swing the bat, man.
Yeah, that was one. That was very disappointing. I'll just say this real quick because I want to hear yours. What was disappointing about that because that era of the Met teams, there was so much talent and they did nothing. The reason why that didn't stand out was because there was so much that happened in '07 and '08 when they collapsed in September and in the last week, and they couldn't get anything done. There was so many moments. Billy Wagner blowing saves left and right last week. No shade on Billy Wagner. He was a great Met, but just that one moment there was so many other moments for the Mets in that era of Carlos Beltran, Mike Piazza, Willie Randolph being such a good manager. Pedro, Johan Santana. I mean, you had all of his talent and you didn't do anything. You were exciting in the regular season, but then you didn't make the postseason those 2 years. And then it just totally fell apart in '09. And there was a dark era a little bit after that. David Wright, Jose Reyes. I mean, those were the people talk about those early '90 teams and the disappointment they were. Man, that era from when they signed Beltran and Pedro in '05, going to '09, that to me was the most disappointing. So it wasn't just the one Beltran striking out with Adam Wainwright. It was just that whole thing. So I couldn't, that one moment didn't stand out to me. Because they did get to game seven, right? Was that a game seven? That was a game seven.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was Ali Perez and his moment of glory there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Ali Perez, John Maine. Anyway, uh,
Oh yeah.
let me hear yours.
All right. So with the Yankees, there was a few that I could have thought of. I didn't even think about '04, but that game four might have, if that changed, then things would be different.
Yeah.
Um Also, I considered last year, like, if not even Aaron Judge catching the ball, but Boone going with Tim Hill versus Nestor Cortez changes, I think, the whole outlook on that
So
series.
what game was you talking about game one?
That this is my honorable mention, but yeah, game one, like if Boone goes with Tim Hill and
Oh, if he
not
goes with
Nestor,
Tim Hill. Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm with you.
but really, to me, the one that sticks out the most, if you're talking like a single play, it's got to be Luis Gonzalez in 2001.
Oh,
Um, Mariano Rivera saves that game. The Yankees win four straight titles,
oh,
5 in 6 years. And they win it on the heels of 9/11. It would have been quite the storybook ending to the dynasty.
yeah,
Um, but I think that's the one that sticks out to me the most, especially since it was a flare up the middle and a drawn in infield. Where like if Torrey had the guys, if the middle of the infield slightly back, maybe they could have made a play.
yeah.
Um, but it's like kind of like it's funny you mentioned '06. Um, Timo Perez, or not Timo Perez, Eddie Chavez making that amazing play
Oh
that
my
saved
God.
the game at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Alfonso Soriano hitting that home run
Oh
in
my
game
gosh.
7. Like
Yeah.
he was like they were etching his name on the MVP plaque
Against
until
Kurt
that happened.
Schilling. Yeah. Oh my God.
Um, but I think that's the one that sticks out for the Yankees. Like if that one goes, then you're talking about arguably one of the best dynasties of all time. I
Yeah,
think still they're up there,
yeah,
um, but that's that.
yeah,
For the Giants, it's hard for me to pick for the Giants because I'm like, they didn't really have like a moment where they fully blew it. But then I thought about it and I was like, oh, yeah, no, definitely this one. Um, oh gosh, I don't even remember the Giants punter that got cut after this doesn't kick
Oh,
the ball out of
oh
bounds.
my gosh.
And then Deshaun Jackson, as time expires, returns the ball for a touchdown.
Oh,
The Eagles beat the Giants in that game, and then they win the division by 1 game.
poor Tom
Um,
Coughlin, man. I thought he was gonna have a heart attack on the field there. Oh my God.
I'm surprised he didn't punch the kicker, like or the punter.
Yeah,
And like I don't even remember the guy's name because he literally got cut after
he
that.
did. He got cut right after. I don't remember his name either. Wow. Wow.
Um,
That was I remember I had my jaw open. I could not believe what when he kicked it to him, I couldn't believe it. And
yeah.
oh
And like I remember, I don't even remember where I was. I might have been at work. I don't know. But I remember listening to it in the car and like, oh, maybe I was picking up Nana. I don't know. But
yeah.
I remember listening to it in the car and I'm just like, oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. And then also like I had a little bit of hope because they're like, oh, he might go in with 1 second, and then he's like walking along the sideline. I was like, oh
Oh
gosh.
man, oh man. That was
That's
brutal. That was brutal.
that's a brutal one.
Yeah.
For the Knicks, it was also kind of hard to not think of anything recent because like let's be honest, the Knicks haven't had a chance to like actually do anything until
Yeah,
this year.
yeah, yeah.
So I picked this year. That Halliburton game winner that
Oh,
bounces 20 feet in the air and then goes in.
Yeah.
If there's a slight wind, if the fans just start waving their arms and move that over,
Yeah.
then
That
I
game.
think that changed the whole series.
It did. It did. Series was won. Sometimes the series is won in game one, like you talked about Yankees Dodgers last year, and with the Knicks, yeah, that was one. Um, wow. I'm thinking, were we watching the 01 series together? Probably, right? Because you were 11.
Uh, I
It
think
was
so.
that game seven was a Sunday night, so I'm assuming you stayed up. Mommy let you stay up.
Yeah, I
I,
remember definitely staying up and watching it.
I,
Yeah.
you know the thing that still stands out for me the most on that is when Mariano threw the ball into center field, which would have been a double play. And I was stunned because he was such a good fielder. And I was like, how did that just happen, you know? And then when Gonzalez gets the hit, this is why because I know I did, so I think you were sitting there with me, and you might have stormed off. But I could not stop watching the TV. Where's that? It was the opposite of with the Mets, and I shut the TV off right away. This, I was in such disbelief, and I was in more disbelief from Mariano throwing the ball in the center field. I just could not believe that that had happened. You know what I mean? Because it just never happened with him. He was such a good fielder. I mean, he did everything so well in his game, and it's just one play. I'm like, and it wasn't even close. I mean, he was like way over Jeter's head, and Soriano was second base then, right? I'm like, I couldn't believe that, so that was painful. That giant one though, that I, I I just when I saw it didn't go out of bounds, I was like, oh, this is bad, even before Watson caught it. All right, I'll give you Jets and Knicks next week. I got to think long and hard on those. I think I have one for the Knicks, but it's from when I was a little kid. But I got to think about the recent ones, and then that the run with the Heat. I think that's a moment with the fight and 90. I think that's 96, and then everybody gets suspended, and the Heat come back from 3 games to one. That's probably gonna be mine, but we'll talk more about it. All right, man. Are you ready for some inspiration?
I'm ready.
All right, I'm gonna take a breath because mine is very, very different. I had one or two sports, but then the shooting happens yesterday in Minneapolis, and I still wasn't gonna talk about that this morning until I saw an interview with a young man named Javen Willis, 13 years old, and they interviewed him on the Today Show this morning, and um, the way he talked about how he realized right away that it wasn't fireworks or something else that he's in the church um and he realizes that it's not fireworks right away, that it's really bad, so he grabs a couple of his friends, and he said his buddies, and they all hide under the pew. But then he said after a few seconds, he's 13 years old, and for him to speak like this with such clarity, he said, I knew that God was on my side so that I was going to be okay. But that prompted him to get up and help others. And he helped a bunch of other kids dive under the pews. He helped a bunch of other kids hide. But just that, the way he said, I knew at that moment that God was on my side. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, um, that I would be okay. So then it was time for me to help other kids. He's 13, Kenny. I think about what I was doing at 13. I wouldn't have had that type of, I'd have been running more than likely at 13. And this 13-year-old kid is already under a pew. He gets back up out of the pew to help other kids. And, there were kids a lot younger than him, it was an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old that got killed. Um, anyway, he definitely inspired me. And there's nothing inspirational about what happened in this story. And you and I work with more you than me, work with youth every day. You work with a lot of kids that are very, very young to teenagers. And I'm sure it crosses your mind, these things, but I'll only say this, man. I know the devil's busy, but what he doesn't realize is that the battle's already won. Well, the war's already won. So he might think he wins some of these little battles, but he's not going to. And this kid is one that was spared yesterday, and he's going to do a lot of things for God's glory in his life. So this kid, I don't know him. Again, if you get a chance, go out and it'll be easy to search. Go out and look at the interview that Craig Melvin had with him this morning. Uh, Javin Willis, 13 years old, and just this dark, dark hour, certainly my inspiration for today. And I know we don't normally dive into world issues, but boy, oh boy, I couldn't. Anything else seemed to pale for me, Kenny. This morning as I thought about some of the other inspirations I was going to do. So anyway, that's my inspiration today.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, and yeah, thoughts and prayers to all those in Minneapolis. I know a few pastor people that are out there,
Yeah,
and I couldn't imagine having to deal with what they have to deal with.
yeah.
Um, and well, I have a follow up and then other inspiration. My
Okay.
follow up, I talked about the Guardians Faith Day.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't really see much else about it.
Oh,
Um, like I looked on like the Guardians social media, not a ton about it. I saw a couple people like inviting people to it, but I think the only you had mentioned Cade Smith, and that was the biggest story that I
yeah.
saw out of that.
Yeah.
Um, but another story kind of popped into my head. Um, that involves one Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah.
I didn't mention how good of a year he's had. He's
Great
he
pickup.
leads all second basemen in like everything.
Yeah.
He has a decent shot at 30-30. They I saw someone was looking up his numbers over 162 games as a Yankee, which he's close to that, and he could end up 40-40 in like his first full season as a Yankee, which would be
Wow.
impressive.
Yeah.
Um, so there are two things with Jazz Chisholm. Um, so last week was the MLB players, the Little League World Series. They played at in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. The Mets did their business with the Mariners and everything like that. The Yankees played there last year, and Jazz had kind of befriended one of the young little leaguers and said like, "Oh, I'll help. I'll be there with you. I'll kind of mentor you." And like some people, it's like, "Oh, well, that's nice," and then like nothing actually happens. But he has maintained a strong relationship with him to this day, which I
Wow.
think is really good.
Yeah.
Especially like, I can only imagine how like even if it was like a Guardians player and I'm 13 years old and I'm like, oh wow, like this guy actually cares about me. Like that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But also what happened this past Sunday um is something that sticks out to me more. Jazz had a multi-home run game, which he's done multiple times this year. Uh it's funny in the home run derby he hit less home runs than people have hit in actual games this year, but that's not the point.
Right.
Um he had a he hit his second home run, and he is found in the dugout, bawling his eyes out. Aaron Judge goes up and gives him a big bear hug and everything like that. And it's kind of like, oh, well, what's happening there?
Right.
Turns out his best friend had passed away earlier that day.
Wow.
Totally unexpected and totally wrecked him. And he was kind of given the option of should I play or should I take some time off? And he wanted to play as a way to honor his friend, and he honored his friend in one of the best ways he could in hitting two home runs.
Wow.
So definitely a totally emotional moment for him. But also like I always love those types of stories where it's like, yes, it's tough, but then like you overcome crazy things to do it. Like I think of like Isaiah Thomas when his sister died,
Mhm.
little Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
And then he goes out and has a crazy playoff game. And then of course gets traded by the Celtics,
Right.
um but then also when Jose Fernandez passed away, which was around this time in
Yeah.
2016,
Yeah.
and D Gordon, who didn't hit a home run all year, hits a home run there.
Yeah.
And like I always like those types of stories. It's just like a way to honor people and but also like pray for Jazz. It seems like he's had a lot on his mind. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great one. I love that. I love that. And Jazz Chisholm is I was saying this as you were talking, great pickup by the Yankees. I hope they lock him up and keep him here for a while. He's kind of the quintessential Yankee player, and I don't think he ever tries to hit home runs. He's one of those guys that hits line drives that just happen to be home runs, you know. So awesome. I love that story. Well, as we end, we didn't hit this, so I'll hit it real quick because you sparked something with Home Run Derby. None of it is signed, sealed, delivered yet, but the baseball TV stuff is going to be crazy interesting because the main things are ESPN is probably staying and they'll get probably 30 regular season. They're saying nights, so they'll probably take Wednesday night and they'll probably go back to what they used to do where they'll have a Wednesday night doubleheader. You know, they used to call it the Hotel California was the second game, you know. So they're staying in. I don't think they'll get any postseason games, but it looks like they're staying in because they wanted to buy the rights to the highlights, and it looks like a lot of the MLB network will be going to them. But the real interesting part is that, we don't concern ourselves with the regional networks around here because we have Yes and we have SNY. But, I don't know what you have there in Cleveland, but there was Bally's and Fox Sport
Yeah.
Midwest.
Ooh, right now we don't have anything.
Yeah,
It's MLB is just like hosting the Guardian stuff.
right. So, and that's the case in a lot of parts of the country now because a lot of those regional networks went belly up, really didn't do well and lost a lot of money. So ESPN is taking over that wherever they can fill in. So, like you may have ESPN Midwest, and it'll be another channel, ESPN channel that you would catch the Guardian games on. So that's how they're keeping their toes dipped more than their toes. They're going to be knee deep in baseball still, but they're not going to be as visible. So they're going to lose Sunday Night Baseball. Sunday Night Baseball is going to go to NBC, which NBC will now own Sunday nights with football, with basketball, the NBA, and with baseball. So that's going to be really interesting. But the last quick point is you mentioned the home run derby. It looks like Netflix is going to be taking the home run derby. It's going to be a whole bigger event than it is now because Netflix, I think, is going to be paying $35 million a year just to do the home run derby. Now, none of that is totally official yet, but it probably will be in the next month or so.
Wow.
That's going to be very, very interesting. When you said Jazz in the Derby, that reminded me of that. So we could talk more about that next week or when they finally make this official. Because I'll just say this and we'll end. The way we consume our sports, not just baseball, it's going to change over the next 10 years a lot. And I'm not prepared and I won't, but we're going to be paying a lot more money, because ESPN, what they're putting together is not going to be, oh, they're going to give us this whole suite of stuff for free. Right now, they've expanded their app and it's $30 a month if you want it, and so, yeah. So, because they've expanded it to add more stuff on there. So yeah, I'm not prepared. Fox Sports is going to get into they've got their Fox Sports app, but they're supposed to really with Barstool now but listen, you can watch anything anytime. You probably could do a lot of that now, but trouble is a lot of times you can do it for free now. You ain't gonna be able to do it for free in these next couple of years. So we're gonna pay that price. I won't. I'm sorry. I'll figure out ways to watch stuff free, I'm paying for too much now as it is, so I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
That's why we don't have cable at our house.
Yeah. I mean, it's smart, smart. All right, bud, lots to get into next week. Football preview next week.
Yeah, I have a hot take that I'm bubbling over, so I'll have to.
I can't wait. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I can't wait. All right, Ken, take us home.
Alrighty, this is Kenny Squared End
Kenny.
with Sports on the Positive Tip. We'll see you guys next week.